So the first thing that we're going to have to talk about is being proactive in our learning process. That's what I want to start off first. And this is the first technique to use to make the information that you're studying more memorable. Again, what's happening, and welcome back ninjas to another video. If you've been studying and it's very hard to recall the information and make it more memorable, you were in the same boat I was before I was able to tap into this information. And what I've learned is that we're all relying on these outdated strategies, especially if you went through that traditional public school system and we only have that way of taking notes and those old learning strategies where you just sit down and you just listen to somebody speak to you and everything. You're really just in a passive kind of state and not really learning anything. So in this video, I'm going to go ahead and give 3 powerful techniques that I've learned and that I currently use that helps me to study and really organize all of this overwhelming Cisco knowledge and information that I have and make it more purposeful so that all that study time doesn't go to waste. So the first thing that we're going to have to talk about is being proactive in our learning process. That's what I want to start off first. And this is the first technique to use to make the information that you're studying more memorable. Again, with this traditional public school system, the learning techniques that we were provided was pretty much this, like I said, sit down there, you listen, you memorize some stuff. Pretty much you don't even have to do the homework, is what I learned from college to high school. You really don't have to do homework. All you have to know is have the knowledge enough to pass the test. And then the teachers, if you finesse them enough, you could just curve the grade and everything, and you really learn nothing. And even if you tried to learn it on your own and really tried the techniques that you have, you're not going to be able to recall that information at will. I was able to notice that really when I first started self-studying for Cisco. It was a lot of technical information when I first started, coming from no kind of background in IT and trying to jump into an IT career. So if you're trying to do that and you're using those old learning strategies, you got to adopt new learning strategies. And it took me time to grow into that, but hopefully I can accelerate that growth process by sharing the information with you. You want to be proactive in your learning. Just shift to like an active learning mindset. And the way to do that is if, for example, let's say you're reading a chapter on EIGRP or routing protocols, you can begin to prompt yourself and prime your brain before you start reading the information to just get into the habit of, do I know this information? Do I truly understand what I'm reading or what I'm watching? Even this video, do you truly understand what am I saying, or are you just passively chilling and not really taking in the information that's being provided? The other thing is, did I make that information that I just learned, did I make it stick inside my memory? An example of what I've been using to make sure that I'm making information stick is a technique called second brain. This isn't the technique that we're talking about today, but it's just an example of how you make stuff stick in your memory. And the whole concept of second brain, it's a book out there. I haven't read it, but I did learn the concept, and it's basically just taking that knowledge that you're having and again, just organizing it and make it more purposeful. So how could you do that with Cisco? I make YouTube videos. So if I study EIGRP, I'm taking that knowledge and I'm making it more purposeful by sharing a video of what I learned about the routing table versus the EIGRP topology table versus the all links topology table in EIGRP. That's just one example of me using the second brain, meaning I'm not just trying to recall that information just off of my original brain where I learned the information. That information is being reinforced into me because I've took the time and made a video about it. And that while I'm making the video or while I'm trying to explain the information that I learned, that's really just cementing that knowledge into my head, if that makes sense. When you do this and you engage actively with that kind of content that you're trying to learn, that's how you enhance, again, that's how you're going to enhance that retention and your recall capabilities, which gives you more confidence when you're on the test. Because when you go on that test and exam and you don't have that kind of confidence that you really learn the information, but you know it, but you don't really know it, that leaves that little bit of doubt. And we know with that doubt is going to come the fear of failing the exam, and that's just going to put you in that negative kind of mindset. And you don't want to be in that state when it's test day and it's test time. You want to be in that confident and you already know what the answers are type vibe, and just attack the test. That's how I was when I went into my last exam. I said that I'm attacking. Even though I failed the first time, the second time I knew that, hey, I was studying this stuff and I'm going to attack that test. That's just tip number one. All you have to do is really just prompt yourself and prime your brain to go in there and actively learn whatever kind of content or information that you're trying to learn. That's step number one. The second thing that you want to do is determine the relevance. Again, we know with Cisco, there's that overwhelming amount of information that they provide. I mean, they give you everything vendor specific for them, as well as industry information that isn't going to be really relevant for when you're on the test. Some of that information isn't going to be really relevant, but how are you going to be able to determine what's relevant and what's not? What I do, one of the things that I do is the self-assessments, right? You can go get a Bolson practice exam. Or if you don't have that, if you're studying out of that OCG book, use the Do I Know This Already quizzes. When I first started studying this stuff, I wasn't really using those quizzes. But again, because they say if you keep using the same questions over and over, you're not really doing a good self-assessment. But in my opinion, I think that's great. It's just giving you practice to reinforce that information. You get to recall that information by going to those quizzes. And the thing that's even better is that more than likely it's not going to be the same question on the test, but the content or the concepts that they're trying to get you to learn in those Do I Know This Already quizzes are really going to be geared toward that content and the concepts that you're going to be faced with on the real exam. In my experience, that's what it's been. And again, from not looking at that and taking a passive approach and doing the Do I Know This Already kind of like at the end or just haphazardly, didn't really work out for me. It wasn't until I was intentional saying, okay, let me look at this Do I Know This Already question. Let me see, why are they asking me this? Let me go to that specific part of the book. Let me grab that information, make a video about it or blog about it or teach it to somebody. They don't even have to know Cisco. You can use anybody that you want. You can use family or friends and just teach them about it and try to explain it to them. Even though they may not understand it, at least you are getting those reps in and getting that muscle memory as far as like your mind muscle. And that, again, that's going to be your second step, which is very key and very important. Determine the relevance, because again, we don't want any wasted study time. Our time is very valuable and we want to be very intentional with our approach. So determine the relevance of what the information that you're gathering is. If it's garbage, then don't even work on it. Don't even look at it. And those self-assessments are going to help you, right? Because it also will point out your strengths and your weaknesses. So if you're gathering all this information on EIDRP and you know that you can't answer a question on EIDRP, you need to go back to step one and say, hey, what am I doing that I'm not being really proactive? Maybe I was half awake when I was studying this stuff. It really helps develop that kind of way to be able to recall the information. So now we want to move on to our next step, which just builds on kind of like the second step, which is our third step. And this one is about the power of your imagination and harnessing your imagination. If you're anything like me, and I'm big into self-development, and you'll learn from all these gurus out there that there's a quote by Albert Einstein that says, imagination is more important than knowledge. So that applies here too with us when we're trying to tap into that power of our imagination. Because with our minds, we're capable of creating like mental images. And when we're able to create these mental images, it helps us aid in recalling that information that we're trying to recall. So I'll give you an example. If you think of a rose, then you can visualize that rose. You can visualize its shape. You can visualize its color. You can visualize whether it's open or closed, whether it has thorns or if it doesn't have thorns on it. And just that right there, giving you all those reference points of that image, helps reinforce that I know the information that I'm providing you is accurate, because I know how to break down what a picture of a rose was. Like an example, like if somebody was blind and I was trying to explain to them, hey, this is how a rose looks, this is a petal, this is the stem, whatever, this is the thorn on it or whatever. All of that information will help me communicate to that individual a mental image of what a rose looks like. Even though we can't see it with our physical eye, you'll be able to picture it with your third eye, so to speak, right? And by doing that with your imagination and really putting mental images and working with those mental images, it really helps you create that long-lasting connection with the content or information that you're trying to learn. I just wanted to expound on that, I guess is the word, but basically also with mental imagery, it gives you the ability to use comparisons. That's very important when you're trying to learn something. So not only are you able to use that mental image to describe something, but to really reinforce it, you can use comparisons. And this will help you to verify with certainty that the information that you are speaking about or that you learned about, you know with certainty that that information is correct and accurate. So an example of this would be losing your car in a parking lot full of cars. There's several cars out there that are the same make and model as yours. So you have the mental image of your car. Everybody right now can close their eyes and then you can picture your car and you can see it and everything. But what happens when somebody got that same car out there? If you don't have something that is unique about your car, like rims or anything like that, they're all going to look the same. So again, that's an example of right there of using that image to make a comparison, to verify with certainty that your car is your car. Because if your car has rims on it, if it has a baby seat in the back, if it has a certain type of air freshener, without having to use your little key fob or whatever, you're going to know, hey, that's my car. I know which one. I bought those rims. I know that that's mine or whatever. I know that that's my air freshener. That's my baby seat in the back and all of that there. So that's why using your imagination to imagine something and then reinforcing whatever content that you're learning about by comparing it and describing in detail that information, that's where your true power and these techniques all really come together. All right, my ninjas, that about wraps it up. So I just really wanted to say that if you incorporate these three things that I said, is, like I said, be proactive in your learning, be an active learner. Also, you want to determine the relevance of the information that you're going through and that you're finding. You want to go find that relevant information. You don't want to just be reading a dry book or just watching a dry video. You want to be actively like searching through that video for the information. So you're like at minute mark such and such, you talked about this. And then finally putting it all together with using your imagination, that mental imagery and all of that power of your imagination to be able to see this stuff, not physically, but within your mind's eye. Once you put all of that, you'll revolutionize your approach towards studying, and it will definitely, I can say with confidence, your scores on the exam will improve. So I appreciate y'all for locking in. Y'all already know, smash that like, leave a comment if you're feeling the content. If you want to learn more about it, leave a comment, and definitely subscribe. Share the video for anybody trying to get into IT. Someone come holler at me. I'm coming with mindset information to help develop our mindsets, as well as that technical information, so that we really are on go when it's time to take that test. So I salute to all of y'all. Appreciate it. I'm gonna holler at y'all. Peace.